Hey guys, Jeff Glover here, Glover U, with a couple suggestions for a great open house. You know, for years and years, I've been telling our agents, this is probably 5-7 years ago, open houses aren't a good use of your time. Instead, you should come into the office on a Saturday or a Sunday, prospect for potential buyers, prospect for potential sellers. And the reason for that is because when the inventory levels are high and there's a lot available out there, less people use open houses as an option to search for homes. Because when inventory is scarce and there's less to choose from, buyers go to every extreme to find out about real estate, and thus the reason why open houses are popular again. So not to say that they were a bad lead generation tool 5-10 years ago, they're just not as effective as they are today, because when inventory is scarce and when listing levels are as low as they are today, buyers will do whatever they can to go out and find property, even if they are working with an agent. So having said that, if you have a buyer that you believe is an exclusive buyer to you, know that if you're not showing them exactly what they want, typically over 3, 4, 5 weeks of them looking at homes, they're going to exhaust efforts with you and start looking at open houses. So they're going to meet agents like myself that are hosting an open house on a day like today, and I'm going to give you some cool pointers, things that probably are like common sense, or you may think, gosh, I never thought of that. Let's do that. So first things first, starts with the open house guest registry. As you can see, we just started the open house, and every time we have an open house, I always fill out what I call a dummy attendee. And the reason for that is because doing open houses early on, I learned, this was probably back 2003, 2004, when I did them virtually every Saturday or Sunday, I learned that if a consumer comes in and fills out their information, and let's say they leave their email address off, then the next person that comes in and signs in at your open house will fill out their information, and they'll also leave their email address off. And then it'll just be a continuous pattern. Same thing with the phone number or whatever. So 2 rules on your guest registry. Always fill out a dummy in advance in its entirety. If you're looking for name, phone number, email, how they heard of it, whatever, fill it out all the way. Just think of a friend, family member, or whatever, put in fake information. That will help you get full information from consumers when they do stop by. Also, the second thing on the guest registry, there's actually 3 things. The second thing is, if somebody does come into the open house and they don't fill it out in its entirety, when they leave, fill something in, right? So if they leave their phone number off, then fill in a fake phone number, because again, the trend will continue. People will continue to do what everyone else does when you ask them to sign in. By the way, when you ask them to sign in, it's not you that's requesting they sign in, it's the seller that requests that they sign in. So you always put it on the seller, and I always say, out of respect for the sellers, they're requesting that everyone tour their home sign in today, so if you wouldn't mind putting your information down, most people are gonna have no problem with that. If they give you a hard time, use your best judgment, go with your gut. If you want to ask them to leave, there's nothing wrong with asking someone to leave if they're not willing to put in their information. The last thing I do with the open house guest registry is when a consumer leaves. So let's just take this one. Well, the first one is a dummy, but let's say, we just started the open house. We had another guest come in and they'd fill out their information here. When they leave, I actually take out a blank sheet of paper and I will write in number 1, and I'll write in how my conversation went with them, because at a lot of open houses, especially the busy ones, you could have 6, 10, 15, 20, 30 people through. You forget what kind of conversations you have. So if I had a buyer come into the open house, let's just say it was Mary and Bob Doe, and we had a good conversation. They're going to be selling soon. They want to get settled in time for summer. They want to find a lake house, whatever it is. I'm going to flip over my guest registry or take out a blank sheet of paper and write in the details of my conversation as soon as they leave. Because again, once you have 6, 7, 10, 15 people in the home, you're going to forget who came through. I'll also write things down like what their motivation is, if they're working with a realtor, how soon they're looking to be settled, and so forth. So that's kind of my tips on the guest registry. Another good lesson on the flyer for the open house. I think everyone knows you have to have a flyer for an open house. You should do one of 2 things. Okay, on the back side of that flyer, you should have all of the actives or sold listings in the neighborhood, what else is going on in the neighborhood. That's one option. The other option is something that you're doing that's unique, that causes you, your group, your company to stand out. In this particular case, I didn't bring the actives and solds in the neighborhood. There's actually not a lot for sale in this neighborhood, so I felt it was more important to talk about things that we're doing in the community. From our company standpoint, we're talking about Glover's Heroes and our exclusive buying power guarantee, which is a whole nother video, so I'm not even going to get into that right now. And then of course I have some supporting information on that. Waters, cookies, whatever you can do to make people feel more comfortable. is always a good thing. Obviously, business cards, some of the basics, welcome sign, please sign it. When you greet someone at the door, the first thing you should say is, hey, thank you, introduce yourself, thanks for stopping by the open house. If you wouldn't mind, the sellers are requesting that everyone sign in, and you bring them right to this area. You don't want it to be a kitchen table or something lower. An island is perfect, or a counter where it's simple and easy for someone to bend over and sign in. When they're signing in, here's a little kind of expert tip, if you will. Don't talk to them when they're signing in, okay? Something I learned early on, you distract them, next thing you know, you get into a conversation, they wrote their name down, they start talking to you, and then they go through the house. So I know it might feel a little bit awkward, especially for your high expressives and your high eyes out there. Don't talk to them while they're signing in. Now, if one person is signing in and the other is starting to look around, you can talk to the other person that's starting to look around, but really it's best for you to stay up here with the person that's signing in and don't distract them from signing in. Couple pointers as you're taking them through the house. Okay, you don't want to follow people into a bedroom. It's important I follow this simple rule. I stay on the same level as them. So if they go upstairs, after 10 seconds, so it's not so awkward, I'll go upstairs as well. I'll let them look through the bedrooms. Obviously, I'm there if they have any questions. My goal is to ask them as many questions as possible while they're in the open house. By doing that, I'm accomplishing two things. Number one, I'm building rapport, because how do you build rapport? You ask a question and let someone talk, and you listen and respond. But the second thing is I'm determining their motivation and how likely it may be that I could sell them this home or another home. Some of the basics. How long have you guys been looking? Where did you find about the open house? Have you made any offers? Are you familiar with what's going on in our market today? Have you heard of our buying power guarantee, right? So just some basic questions to get the discussion going. Are you familiar with what homes are selling for in your neighborhood? Have you had a market analysis done? Just to engage in some dialogue. And then of course, if there's an opportunity, if I see that there's an opening, I'm going to close for a buyer consultation for right after the open house. If I know that this buyer is motivated, they're going to be buying something in the next few weeks, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to wrap up here around 3 o'clock. If it's all right with you guys, we can meet at my office maybe 3:30. Obviously you're driving around looking at properties, and there's a lot out there that you may not know about. And many times we find out about properties before they even come on the market. So if you guys have maybe 15, 20 minutes, I can meet you at my office and I can share with you what's going on in today's market. Now, here's the deal. If I offer that to 10 people, maybe 1 or 2 will say yes. Well, what happens if 2 people say yes? Well, obviously, if one person says yes to 3:30, the next person I'm offering 4. And in some cases, and I've had this happen before, it works out great, by the way, you'll have all of a sudden a 3:30, a 4, a 4:30, and a 5 booked if you have a successful open house. Why not? You're already suited up. You're already in the mood of selling real estate. You just met these people. It's fresh in their mind. And oh, by the way, don't be disappointed or surprised if they don't end up showing up. I would say probably 1 out of 2 appointments that I set that way actually does follow through and end up showing up. Everyone else gets a follow-up call from me either later that day or on Monday. Okay? If they're not that motivated, I'm following up with them on Monday. If my open house is on Saturday or Sunday, I'm definitely following up with them on Sunday, because chances are I'm not the only open house that they're dropping by. I'm not the only agent that's sending them listings. If they're out shopping and I know they're motivated, they're going to expect a call from an agent right away. Remember, motivated prospects love motivated agents, right? Unmotivated prospects love unmotivated agents. So if I sense that they weren't so motivated, I might actually wait until Monday to follow up, but I'm never waiting past Monday. And then of course, when I follow up on Monday, or if I'm following up on Saturday or Sunday after the open house, whatever, my goal is to find out what else did you see while you were out there. Let me get some criteria from you to get you set up on a search, and then of course close for the buyer consultation. And remember, when we close for a buyer consultation, if you can't get them to come to the office, try to close for the buyer consultation at their house, because at their house, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I can go through the buyer consultation and give them an idea of what's going on in today's market. So I could get a listing out of it too. And remember, 30% of your people that will drop by an open house, 30%, almost 1 out of 3 has a home to sell. Could be a neighbor, could be a buyer that's looking to upsize, they have a home to sell. Remember that. So keep that in mind when you're working with buyers in open houses. And if there's anything else you guys need, continue watching us at Glover U on Facebook, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Good luck in your open houses this weekend.